Hey YouTube, and welcome to another video with myself, MicroBox of X, and what is finally the Ask MicroBox number 2 video. Sorry for the delay in bringing it. I was just waiting for a few more questions to drop so that I could do a decent amount of Q&A. Before I go any further, I just want to go through a few quick things. You may or may not be aware that Microsoft have announced a sort of a delay with Quantum Break, and they're now saying that this game will drop in 2016. I'm having a problem with this. I'd rather they sort of delayed it and made sure that the game is as polished as it looks already, and obviously the longer that they take with it, the more that they can refine it and hopefully use that DirectX 12 power as well. So, and we've got so many games dropping this year and towards the end of the year. It was obvious that some games were going to be pushed back, and you know, if they need the time to sort of polish these games off, then, you know, delay them. I'm quite happy for that. I will be doing a podcast later on this evening with Xbox gamers. That will be posted up, and when that does go up, I'll put the links out on MicroBox and We Game here, and I'll also do a video and share it in that video as well. I am also looking at doing a weekly podcast with the MicroBox group. We're going to call that the MicroPod, and that's going to be a weekly thing. I'm hoping to start that next week, but we'll have to wait and see, and you know, see who's going to join in, and I'll let you know a bit closer to the time when that will actually happen. So here we go. I'm going to go through the questions now and ask them to answer them to the best of my ability. And hopefully I will get through all of them. Right, so the first question is from the Game Filter, and he says, can you tell us a little bit about your favourite memories in a game, and that might have inspired you or just made you say wow, like a top gaming moment? There's a difficult one because I've been gaming for so long. There's been so many great games that I've played, but when I was thinking about this, I mean, the ones that really stick into my mind was Mass Effect 2. That just at the start of the game, the death of Shepard was quite a big moment, and if you got to a certain ending in the game, Shepard also died again. In quite dramatic circumstances, and if that did happen, then obviously you wouldn't be able to use that character in the third game, but you obviously went through it again and played it and made sure he didn't die the second time. But you know, all of that game was such a great sort of experience to play. So that would be one of my top moments, definitely. And another one I would say was the first time I played Batman Arkham Asylum. I mean, that game just blew me away. I mean, there'd been nothing along those lines or as good as that for any kind of comic book character, as far as I'm concerned, in the past. So you know, Arkham Asylum really sort of raised the bar on those games, and being a big Batman fan also, it was sort of a big fanboy, DC fanboy dream come true to have a game that played that well. The last one that sticks in my mind as well is actually finally finishing the final part of Call of Duty 4 on veteran difficulty. I don't know if any of you ever tried that on veteran difficulty, or even if you did it, but doing that aeroplane section right at the end was a real bitch, and it took me a long time to do that, but that was a big moment when I finally did that and got that achievement. So there you go. I hope that sort of gives you a little bit of you know, information on that question. So what we got next? Bdrew1111, I wonder when he'd pop up. With the monthly updates having pretty much done everything we have been requesting so far, what other new features would you like to see? Well, at the time that you put the question in, I would have said voice messaging. But I mean, as we know, in the last week, Microsoft have dropped voice messaging to a higher level than I ever expected. The fact that we can actually send messages to the Xbox 360 now, voice messages to Xbox 360, I think is brilliant. I never expected that. So that would be one of the big things that I was after. The only other one now that I can foresee being a big advantage to the Xbox One, and to me is the top of the list, is the back compatibility. And I don't mean some kind of back compatibility like the PlayStation one where you have to pay to play these games. I mean proper back compatibility, whether it be through emulation or through some kind of service online. If you put that disc in your Xbox, if you own it, then you can play it. That to me is the biggest one, because there are still a lot of games on the Xbox 360 that I enjoy playing, the Mass Effects being one, the Arkham games. We know the Arkhams are coming as remasters, or that's the rumour anyway, but there's loads and loads of games, Red Dead, there's so many of them, so that would be my biggest thing. He's got another question as well. What games would you like to see made with HoloLens? For me it would be House of the Dead, literally in your own house. Yeah, that would be fun. HoloLens, now that just opens up so many possibilities for games. It would just be incredible. I mean, obviously you're going to have the basic things, like you're going to be able to see, so if you're playing Halo, I mean, it's just unbelievable the things that could be done with HoloLens. I really don't know. I mean, you could go with the normal things like Call of Duty, but I think they really need to push it and make things a little bit more interesting. What they're doing with Minecraft, or at least what they've shown with Minecraft, would be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, what about a Ghostbusters game? I mean, why not have some kind of Ghostbusters game when the actual ghosts appear in the room with you, or something like that? I mean, there's so many possibilities. And fun things that you could do with this technology. The possibilities are endless. Okay, so Crispy Chris 62. If you had a time machine, what time would you go back to and why? Oh God. If I had a time machine, I don't know actually. I'll probably go back to, I'd have to go back to the 80s. What an era. It was when gaming really started to take off in the early 80s. It was when it started becoming big. I mean, it started in the 70s, but it really started taking off in the 80s, when you had the advent of the Commodore 64s and the VIC-20s and the Spectrums, and obviously the Commodore Amiga. That would be the time I went back. It would have to be gaming related. I might go back just so I could watch some of the big films on the cinema again, that were released in the 80s as well. A good opportunity to do that. Right, another question from B Drew 1111. God, you're busy on here. I did a video regarding my reasons to buy an Xbox over any other platform, and what to expect for Xbox's future. As a fellow Xbox One owner, what are your detailed thoughts on what you think deep down behind the denial the competition, primarily PS4 fanboys, must be thinking regarding the evolution of the Xbox in the last 12 months, let alone what it will be like in the next 10 years. I think the fanboys, they don't really care. The serious gamers, the serious Xbox gamers and PlayStation 4 gamers, will look at it in a totally different light. As a PlayStation gamer, I expect they're looking at it and thinking, yeah, that's impressive what they've done, the way they've brought it back from, you know, a really rough time in the first sort of 6 to 12 months, I would say the Xbox One had. But the fanboys are just gonna look at it and well, I mean, even today I've seen videos where the Xbox One has failed, Xbox One is finished, and you're always gonna get that. You know, that's all you can expect from fanboys, and it's never gonna change. The hardcore gamers, the proper gamers, you know, no matter what platform they're gaming on, they're going to be looking at it and they're going to be impressed, because at the end of the day, the Xbox One has been an extremely impressive machine. It's constantly moving forwards, and you know, you can't say any more than that. But yeah, the fanboys are going to hate. That's what they do, and that's evident on YouTube every day. So there you go. Kenny Thomas 1983, how you doing, mate? He says, what's up, homie? What are your top 10 games of all time, and what are your top 5 consoles of all time? Now that was a tricky one. I had to look at this question and really think about this, but I've come up with a list. Not everybody's going to agree with it, I'm sure you're not, but you know, these were mine. So the top 10 games of all time, the first one for me has got to be Knights of the Old Republic on the original Xbox. It was a fantastic game. It really raised the bar for that type of game, and it was Star Wars as well, so it was a win-win. That's my number one. Number two, Rainbow Six 3, again on the original Xbox. Those two games, Black Arrow and the first Rainbow Six 3, what fantastic games, brilliant multiplayer. They were the first ones to really bring the multiplayer experience to Xbox Live, and I met a lot of good friends on that, which I am still good friends with now. So that's got a real sort of spot on my top 10. Third is Arkham Asylum. As I've already discussed earlier on, Arkham Asylum blew me away. It was Batman, it was DC, it was actually a very, very good game. It was well acted, the story was brilliant, and it was, the combat in that game was just flawless. The way that they pulled that game together was just incredible. Number 4, Mass Effect 2, hands down. I love the Mass Effect series anyway. I can't wait for the new one. The Mass Effect games, they were groundbreaking. The way that everything that you did in those games followed on and changed things in the next game, you can't say further than that. They're just a great game series. What we got? Number 5, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Again, it's Star Wars, but it was such a great shooter. It was fun to play, and the multiplayer was incredible. Actually getting an X-wing and fly around those AT-ATs on Hoth was, it was just great. And we've got Red Dead Redemption. Now that game, to me, I can play that game again and again. It was just such a fantastic game. Again, a brilliant story, brilliant graphics. Even if you go back to the 360 now and bang that game in, graphically it's impressive. And as I say, the story was brilliant. And then obviously they brought out the zombie add-on for that game, which was brilliant as well. So that's my number 6. Next we have Lemmings. Now this was originally on the Amiga, or at least it was for me. I had it first on the Amiga 600 that I had at the time. Such a great game, so addictive to play, and I still think to this day that the Amiga version is still hands down the best version to play. And these newer versions, they change too much and make it a little bit too I don't know, they change some of the elements of the game and it spoils it a little bit. So Lemmings is definitely on the Amiga, was my number, definitely out there. That's number 7. Right, number 8, Ghostbusters. Easily Ghostbusters on the Amstrad and the Commodore 64. I had it on the 464 and the Commodore 64. I just loved that game. It was so straightforward, so simple, but it was just fun to play, and you can't beat it. I still go back and bang it in even now and play that game. Next we've got Chaos Engine. The Chaos Engine, again on Amiga. Such a great game. It was fun to play, it was addictive, and it had 2-player co-op as well. Again, I still bang that game in the Amiga now, and I only recently bought it on Steam as well, because it was on sale for 69p, so I thought I'll have that. And then I would say LA Noire. That was such a groundbreaking game. The facial animation, again, the great story, great game physics. I just really enjoyed the game. I've gone through it a couple of times now. So there you are. That's my top 10 games. Top 5 consoles, and this was a bit more tricky. Top console of all time, easily the Xbox 360. That console is that's just going to go down in history as the best console in my opinion. Xbox Live was just brought into another level with the Xbox 360. The games that we've had for the console were just incredible, and it's just moved on and developed. I mean, it's a completely different beast now to what it was when it first launched, and they're still pushing juice out of that system up to the point when the Xbox One dropped. So I mean, they did such a great job with that console. Number 2 is the Sega Dreamcast. We only had that system for 2 years, but what a system. I mean, it was the first system to have proper sort of multiplayer, albeit it was on dial-up, so it was a bit slower. But you know, it was the first system to properly bring multiplayer console-wise. It had some great games on it, and graphically, even now, it stands up. And it was a far superior system to the PlayStation 2. I think the biggest letdown on that system, that I think its biggest problem, was the lack of a DVD drive. Perhaps the system dropped 12 months too early. You know, it's just one of those things, and sadly it was the last hurrah for Sega as a console manufacturer. So yeah, that's a damn good console. Third spot, the original Xbox. You know, again, only a short lifespan, but we did see such great games on it, and it was the first system to have Xbox Live, a fully integrated broadband multiplayer system. It was just a brilliant system. We had so many good games on that system. As I say, Knights of the Old Republic. You had the Halo. Halo was just incredible. The first time I saw Halo play, that was when my PS2 got sold and I got my first original Xbox. Because I think the PS2 was out for about 12 months before the original Xbox dropped, and I was, you know, at the time I was hardcore PlayStation, but I was very disappointed with the launch of PlayStation 2, and I didn't feel that they raised the, you know, they didn't bring to the table what they were promising, and Xbox just blew it away. What have we got? Number 4, PlayStation 1. What a fantastic console that was, and it had such great games. I mean, they brought Lemmings to it, but you had things like Destruction Derby, Wipeout, Final Fantasy. It was such a great system, and you know, when you look back at it now, yes, the graphics can be a little bit blocky, but you know, when you think out the age of the system, it still stands up well. It's still got some great titles. And my last console, number 5, is the 3DO. Another great system, and another system that had a short lifespan. It seems to me that all the great consoles don't get a fair crack at the whip. It's always the best consoles that just sort of fail and sort of dwindle away. 3DO was actually created by, at the time, the owner of Electronic Arts, where he was actually the, if I remember rightly, I think he was actually the person that started EA, Trip Hawkins, and it was his baby, and he had this vision of having this game console, very much like people ask for now. He wanted it like a like DVD as a standard, and every system you just license out the hardware, and then different manufacturers would market it. And we had the Panasonic one, and there was also one by Gold Star. But unfortunately, it just didn't work. The PlayStation 1 dropped soon after, and you know, the PlayStation 1 just had much better games coming to it, more games coming to it. So that's basically you know, why the 3DO failed. It was down to Sony's PlayStation 1. But anyway, so that's my top 5 consoles. Right, the next question, Andy Wilson. Would you rather become big, famous on YouTube or on Twitch, and why? I don't really want to be famous. I just enjoy doing what I do. If people enjoy watching my stuff and like commenting and interacting with me, then that's great. I don't want to be famous though. Twitch I do occasionally, but I don't do it huge amounts. I do, you know, I like to get on there now and again and just interact with people as they watch me play, but I don't do it as often as I'd like. But you know, YouTube, if I have people watching me and they're entertained by what I do and they enjoy my stuff, then I'm happy. I don't want to be famous. Not a chance. Too many nosy people trying to poke their noses in. But you know, I mean, I'm not going to be. You know, I'm not going to be to that point. I'm never going to have to worry about that. So there you go. Another question from Andy Wilson as well. What are your thoughts on this? Maybe you disagree. So far, the quality of games on the next-gen consoles have been poor. A lot have been overhyped and a big letdown, and we've seen so many ports or remastered versions for old gen. Don't get me wrong, there are a few examples, but in general I've been disappointed. The journey is only beginning for the new consoles, but they really need to raise the bar and stop overhyping games. I'm excited by things like HoloLens, but I can't help think it's been a big letdown like Kinect. I hope not, but it's more likely it will be. I don't know. I mean, to me, I think the Xbox One has had a far superior catalogue of games from previous launches. The Xbox 360 had a real drought for decent titles for a good 12 months. I mean, I think the first really good title for me that dropped on that console was the Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Xbox One, yes, there's been you are seeing a lot of remasters, but we are seeing some great titles too. We're seeing new IPs drop. I really enjoyed Sunset Overdrive. And I know we're not seeing so many new IPs at the moment, but there are ones in the works. We know they're in the works. We're just waiting for them. But I think the overall the Xbox One's game lineup has been very good. I think it's been very strong. There's been something for everybody, and to have services like EA Access drop sort of within 12 months of the console's lifespan as well is very good. But no, we have had some really good titles, I think, and the Halo Master Chief Collection, you could argue, was a bit. It's not a disappointing package, as in game-wise, but it has been disappointing in the way that the game came out, and we're still having trouble with it now. It's still not 100% perfect, but overall, we've had a big range of games. I mean, there's loads of them. I mean, I've even on my system as it stands at the moment, I've probably got about 51, 52 games on there. Xbox 360, I probably didn't have that many games after 2 or 3 years on the Xbox 360. So I can sort of see where you're coming from. And yes, there have been a lot of remasters. But I think the majority of the remasters have been good. Good remasters. There have been some that I feel are unwarranted. Sleeping Dogs being one of them. I didn't understand why they remastered that. Games that are less than 12 months old to me, or less than 2 years old, they don't warrant remasters. I don't think they deserve remasters. There's far better, more deserving games out there waiting to be remastered that should be brought to the system before these other games. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for a Mass Effect trilogy remaster, but as I say, I can sort of see where you're coming from. Some of the games have been overhyped and disappointing. Watch Dogs, I know, caused a lot of controversy. There was a big downgrade, and there was nothing like what was seen beforehand. Some games have been dropping that have been buggy, Assassin's Creed Unity being one of them, but now the bugs are ironed out, it's a very good game. So that's my feelings on that one. Okay, what we got next? Daniel Tran, are there any fighting games that you like? What are your favourite series and favourite character from that series? I used to really be into Street Fighter, and whenever I was on that, I was always playing Ryu or Ken. I don't like all the gimmicky characters. And the same with games, actually. Whenever I select RPGs or anything like that, I always play as a human character for some reason. I don't know. But no, I mean, Street Fighter was a big one for me. I did enjoy the Batman, the DC beat 'em up that was on the Xbox 360. But Mortal Kombat was always a big one for me as well. And obviously Killer Instinct on Xbox One at the moment is very good, but they're not my thing. Fighting games, I'm not particularly good at them. I'm better at the sort of the strategy and the first-person shooter, and the more the story-based games like Mass Effect, like Tomb Raider. I prefer that sort of game, but I do pick them up. I just find that fighting games can get a little bit repetitive and a little bit boring, and they don't seem to take very long to finish either. So anyway, that's my thoughts on fighting games. Tarkan Hussein, what are your top 3 games on platform any gen? I've pretty much answered that question already, Tarkan, but thanks for asking the question, mate. I'm sure you've already heard the answer anyway, but thanks for taking the time to leave the question. Kozluk, what previous comments from previous comments, I know you're a Mass Effect fan. What would you like to see in the new game? E3 should be amazing, can't wait for it. Yeah, completely agree, can't wait for E3. I hope we see something new on the Mass Effect. What I want from Mass Effect, I just want more of the same. Obviously we know we're going to get new characters. I just want more of the same. I want more in-depth story. I want longer games. Obviously, with now we're on Blu-ray, I want longer, more cinematic. I want a longer, more cinematic experience. But you know, I pretty much want more of the same. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. The Mass Effect series was brilliant. As long as they can keep the story, you know, an interesting story, give us new, interesting characters. I don't think they need to change much else. The actual mechanics of the game are perfect. Obviously, we'd expect to see a new engine, you know, a bigger jump in graphics. But yeah, I just want a big cinematic experience, and something to get my teeth into. Right then, what we got next? Daniel Tran again. How old were you when you first started gaming? Do you also have a full-time job outside of gaming? When I started gaming, I was about 3 or 4 years old. I was very lucky that my grandfather was interested in games as well, so he was picking up the very early sort of Pong games and the Atari 2600, and that's where I got my interest from. So you're talking 76, 77. That was where it all started for me, and it hasn't stopped since. I've probably gamed every day since then, so God knows how many gaming hours I've put in. Do I work? Yes, I do have a full-time job. I work for an aviation company, part of General Electric actually. If you're in America, you probably know GE. I work for them. So yes, I do have a full-time job on top of this as well, so it does keep me busy. And last question from C-Note Gaming. How you doing, mate? Cheers for the question. What car would you like to have right now? It's got to be an Aston Martin DB5. I'm British. I've got to have a DB5. I always said if I had the money I'd get one, and if that was out of the question, then I'd have some kind of Jag in black. So there you go. Oh, and I've missed a question from JTox421. Sorry, mate, I completely skipped past your question there. He says, did you ever play Maniac Mansion or Zack McCracken on the Commodore 64, and which one you thought was better? If you're an RPG player, if you're picking, and he also asks if I'm picking up Final Fantasy 15 when it releases, and what is your son's favourite game at the moment? Right, let me go through that. I did not actually catch Maniac Mansion or Zack McCracken on the Commodore 64, so I would ask you to sort of fill me in on those games. I don't know those two at all, so I do apologise for that. Am I an RPG fan? Yeah, I class myself as an RPG fan. I do like a good RPG. The Knights of the Old Republic games were brilliant. I have both of them still on the original Xbox. I've even bought that recently on my phone. So yeah, I do like that game. The Mass Effect trilogy, I would see, I see as an RPG. The Final Fantasy games, some of them I've enjoyed, some of them I haven't enjoyed so much. Final Fantasy 7 was a fantastic game. I wasn't a big fan of the turn-based combat in those games though, and that was something that really put me off them. I know it's similar to Knights of the Old Republic, but I just don't like all this hopping in and hopping out. It just seems a little bit. It just seems a bit odd to me that you hop in, have a punch, and then hop back, and then they do the. I don't like that. But Final Fantasy 15, I will be getting it. It looks like they're really, pushing the envelope with that game, and they've changed the combat system as well. So I'll definitely be getting that. My son at the moment, he normally plays, he's a big fighter fan. He likes Street Fighter, he likes Killer Instinct. He's been playing Killer Instinct a lot. I don't play him myself because he kicks my ass. He's too good at them, but he is good at them, and he does like those ones. But he's playing a lot of Neverwinter at the moment. He's really enjoying that game, and to see him getting so much enjoyment out of a game that it's free, he's really enjoying it. Anyway, that is it. That's all I've got time for. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave your comments. Thanks for leaving your questions, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care.